This is Beach Talk Radio.
Good morning, Mr. and Mrs. America, and all ships at sea. This is your captain speaking, Dean Jean. Dean Jean. The following will be a test of the ship's whistle, the sonar alarm, the cable alarm, and the atomic attack alarm.
Hello, America, and welcome to the #1 radio station in all of Fort Myers Beach. Beach Talk Radio. Here are your hosts, Kim and Ed Ryan.
And good evening, everybody, and welcome to episode number 13 of Mondays with the Mayor. And Mayor Dan Allers will be joining us a little bit later on. He's at an event that he had scheduled for 6 o'clock. So as soon as that event is over, we're going to bring him onto the show. We are continuing our conversation about the beach school with school board, Lee County School Board Chairman Armour Persons. Armour, thank you so much for coming on the show. We appreciate it.
It's my pleasure.
So first, can you give us your general thoughts on getting a school back open on Fort Myers Beach?
Well, the beach, having a school for the community is really important. Let me give you just a little history lesson. There was a town in Florida around 1930s. Their school burnt down. It was part of Monroe County, and they went to the Key West, which was the seat back then for Monroe County, still is. And they asked to have the school rebuilt. You know, it's a disaster, like a hurricane. And Monroe County said, no, you don't have enough kids. We don't want to build it. So the people in that little city went up to Tallahassee and they requested to have their own county so they could do their own thing. That was Lee County. It was a disaster on a school that actually was the formation of Lee County. So my thoughts are, we need to keep it going. The community needs a school.
And how soon do you think that school should be open? And how did you feel about the delay in getting the school cleaned?
Well, that was a tough one because, you know, it's a historical building. So that said, you needed to not tear it down. But then you had the FEMA rule that said it was over 50% destroyed and it's old, so you need to tear it down. And the school district could not get a definitive answer which way to go. So to have spent a lot of money on a building and then have to tear it down didn't make any sense. So dealing with the federal government can be very difficult at times. We all know FEMA and everybody out there on the beach is waiting for answers all the time. So they're good, but they're slow.
So for clarification, is the school over the 50% rule?
Oh yeah. I mean, that building was totally submerged, but they said that the historic value supersedes that. We finally got a ruling on that, so it can be cleaned and rebuilt.
Gotcha. Okay, so what in your mind is, obviously this is being discussed because the enrollment numbers, they've been declining over the years, and I can show a chart of that, but I showed it on Saturday, and people have seen it over and over again. What is the magic number for you? Where do you want to see the enrollment?
Well, to get it where the other island schools are, I did some math before I came on the show, and you'd need 69 more students. So let's just say basically 120 would bring it down to that $12,000 per student mark that you see on Pine Island and Sanibel Island. And that's got to be our goal.
And do you believe it's reachable?
I do. There's a lot of unknowns out there. There's a lot of new development. It's not going to be reachable right away. That's pretty obvious. And I think we need to do our part to give the beach a chance to, rebuild and to get people there. I'm a little disappointed. It was not on my radar. I was just sworn in last November, and even during the campaign, we were never talking about, that was not a big issue, the low number of enrollment at the beach school. That should have been addressed a long time ago, and steps taken to increase the enrollment that they're talking about now, making it a magnet school increasing the zoning area that kids can come from. My granddaughter actually went to the Fort Myers Beach School. She lived in the Iona area, but her dad and mother both worked on the island, and they were able to get a waiver. So I'm very familiar with the school.
So you said magnet school, increase the zoning area, the different elements that are going to bring more students to that school. Maybe the resorts will have employees that that have kids that come to the school. Where do you expand the zoning area to?
That's a little tough. I mean, the same reason we don't want to bus a lot of kids off the island. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to bus a lot of kids onto the island. So obviously, all this, I think the whole beach area code would be a good start. But if it's a magnet school, kids can choose to go there. They would just have to provide their own transportation. The unknown is really how many of these new resorts, how many of their children will be enrolled in there, as was my son and daughter-in-law's child that worked on the island. It made great sense for them. They had a great before and after school program, and it worked out very well. And I don't think that's ever been strongly promoted, even before the hurricane, to all the different businesses.
Right. I think even people on in the town council now will admit that everybody's done a poor job of promoting the school, and it's such a great school for the kids that it's a high performing school, but it's like a hidden gem on the beach there. And unfortunately, the storm put a spotlight on the enrollment numbers.
Yes, it did. And I mean, there's obviously a lot of people out there looking only at the financial side. I mean, if you look only at the financial side, it's a real easy decision. Close the school and bus all the kids off. But when I ran, and as far as I know, every candidate that ran for office said it's important to put the kids first. And that's what I'm trying to do. And that would mean having an elementary school, if at all possible, on that island. There may come a time down the road that the enrollments just don't increase, and then we will have to address that.
At least last week, when you guys met, it looked like this option here was the one that everyone was leaning toward. Option B, that you have to refurbish the historic building. You get about 5.8 million to improve the campus. Some kind of interlocal agreement, which I want to ask you about in a little bit. But does it seem to you like this is the option that has the biggest chance of passing?
From what I heard discussion, I would think so. It's not going all in. That would not be good fiscal policy, because there's too many unknowns. But to give the beach a chance to reach those enrollment numbers and then to add more space. The original part of Plan B has room for 80 students, which is 30 more than they have right now. So that's a good starting point. And, it's very workable. So I'm leaning toward that. I can't say how I'm going to vote until we really have all the final facts presented to us. But it does make the most sense in my opinion.
Is there a possibility that the options could even be altered more before your vote in March, or are they pretty solid, set in stone right now, the way you saw them last week?
Well, they're looking at a few different things. We never know, because they have to make a recommendation to us. And we had a workshop, and they made a lot of the different ones, and we brought it toward them. And then once they do workshop that one more time, then we'll have to bring it up for a vote.
What's your feeling on the library as an option for some of the students, the third floor of the library?
Well, it has its problems because, one, every campus has like one entryway. So we know everybody that's in the school makes the school safe. Using the library would, to me, mean you'd almost have to close the library to the public while the kids are in there. I don't know if that's a possibility or not. I know they've been talking to the superintendent, and then we get the things on that. I have not personally talked to the ad hoc committee or the mayor more than just in passing. We've met each other many times, but those policies are worked out between staff and then brought to us.
There was a public comment last week at the school board meeting, and I wanted to play one for you and get your comment to see what you thought about it. This is Patrick Van Ness. He's a parent on Fort Myers Beach and made a
The good
presentation.
news, folks, today is we have solutions. We have great options. We have solutions. But then just to address some of the comments that I've heard today, because I'm very concerned as to what those sound bites are out in the public. Okay. So let's be fair when we look at statistics. I had a professor that used to say statistics are very suggestive in what they reveal, crucial in what they conceal. Okay. So instead of looking at the per student in operational cost, if we look at the percentage of your entire budget for the year, the cost is only 0.08% of your entire budget. Put that out in the public and see how they feel. It's a rounding error. Also, when it comes to the cost figures that you have before you, we are using pre-Ian figures for the cost of operating the school, but post-Ian enrollment costs. Is that fair? That's what I want you guys to really look at when we look at fairness and equity. If we're going to use numbers, let's use fair numbers, because
Thoughts? Is it a rounding error?
No, not really. I mean, yes, we have a super large budget, but a lot of that's capital expense that we can't touch for any operating expenses. So that's really not a very accurate statement. We're not allowed to move money from capital, like repairing and building schools, to operating schools. And they have, so many expenses, such as our teachers, such as the free lunch for all the students in Lee County. It's a sizable, but he does have one point he didn't bring up. The school in Sanibel has a lot more students, and they lose less per student, but when you multiply it all out, the school in Sanibel is losing about $1 million a year more. I mean, they're spending $1 million more a year than what they take in per seat. We used to call them cheeks in the seats. That's how the state funds the schools. How many kids you have, and times more or less $8,000, and that's what you're given to operate your school on. So if you go over that, then that's the cost. So, but the key to get down the per student is still a very accurate measure for people all throughout the county, because you got to look at it from all sides. The beach obviously wants the school. There's no doubt. But other people in their district are saying, take that $1 million and spend it at my school that you're spending extra there, and we could do all this extra stuff. So there are always two sides to look at everything.
Right. So just for clarification on the Sanibel school, are you saying, because I don't know the specific numbers, are you saying that the Sanibel school is losing the same amount of money as the beach school was?
Yes, our basic is around $8,500 per student is our average that we spend. And we're spending $22,000 at the Fort Myers Beach, and we're spending $12,000 per student on the Sanibel school. So they're spending about $3,000 more per student. But when you multiply that times every student they have there, it comes up to close to $1 million.
I see. So it seems I don't want to get into Sanibel versus Fort Myers Beach because they're kids. The money that was set aside by FEMA to clean the beach school, is that money only to be used to clean the beach school, or can you guys shuffle it around for other things after a decision is made?
They'll give you so much for each school, depending on what you're doing it for. One of the misconceptions out there is that the school can be rebuilt for 100% of insurance and FEMA money. One, as people are looking at their houses, they'll find out that FEMA never even agrees to a price tag that's 100%. And then what happens is there is a 25%. FEMA will pay up to 75% of the cost that's not covered by insurance. So you've got 25% still left. So let's say we go with plan B, which is say a $10 million. That would be a $2.5 million option that will never be covered. The school district is going to have to pay that out of pocket. And, you know, that's what we're looking at there. The state will pay approximately half of that.
But to the point of the question, are you only allowed to use that money for the beach school, or if something's decided where the money is not going to be used for the beach school, can you use it somewhere else, or do you just have to give it back?
No,
to
you would
FEMA?
only get so much for that school, and you would have
Okay.
to use it on that school. They do a walkthrough.
I got you.
Of the school. They're very, very tough on that. You got to dot every I and cross every T.
Sure. Have you walked through the school?
I have been by the school. I have not walked through it. The reason I haven't is I was familiar with how it looked before the hurricane. Having had my granddaughter there, I've been there a few times for different plays and things like that. So I got the look of it. I mean, from all the pictures I've seen and everything, I know how big.
Do you believe it can? Let's say B passes in March, just hypothetically. Do you believe that the work can be done in time for the next school year?
I know that would be a tight schedule, depending on how many they can get in and along there. That's a little bit out of my range. They'll present us with a plan. You know, getting the workers and things in there is not easy. So I'm going to pass on that one.
Okay.
But
fair enough.
They will, though, be given, if we decide to go with that, they'll be given what we call a golden ticket, which means they can go to whichever school they want to until that's done and then switch to there. So they don't have to be, you know, gone other places.
One of the things I asked Chris Patrica on Saturday when she was on the show was that the same day the Sanibel Beach School was opening, the kids on Fort Myers Beach were waiting 2 hours for their bus to pick them up, to take them off the island to go to a different school. The bus problem has to be solved, don't you think? I mean, that can't be happening.
That's a countywide problem. And like I said, I want to put the kids first. And we have 3,000, not just your 50 on the beach. We have 3,000 kids every day late to school. That's time they are not learning. And then, of course, they're usually late getting home. The choice system in our schools was so huge. You literally could go to 10 different schools as an elementary kid, and we would provide busing if you were chose to those. You know, now it's down to 3 or 4. It's going to be much more manageable for a child to not be on the bus so long, and everything will be better. Otherwise, we would have to spend so much more money if we could even find the number of bus drivers to do that. So transportation was the biggest problem that I knew I was facing when I got elected before Ian got hit.
Speaking of the elections, little sidebar here. Do you think it's fair that the superintendent should now have to be elected, or were you in favor of that being a hired position?
I think we have a good superintendent. I'm not going to say anything bad about him. He's doing a great job. But we have had 6 different superintendents in the last 12 years. That's an average of 2 years. So we haven't had very good stability. Some have not done a good job at all, you know, with all the vetting and everything else. So that's what brought on the choice of, you know, the people decided that they would rather have an election. They think they could vet better than the school board. And I think probably they could have been right. The school board did did a good job last time with our current superintendent. Like I say, he's doing a great job. And I'm not sure if he's going to run or not run, but that's just the way the voters wanted it.
Gotcha. So let's talk about the interlocal agreement between, I'm not even sure who's going to be signing it on the other side. I'm guessing members of the community somehow. What do you want to see in the interlocal agreement that'll make you happy that there's a relationship between the municipality, the community, and the school board to make these enrollment numbers work?
Well, they're working on a lot of different things. I think one, there has to be an understanding of some kind of a timeline to get the numbers up. I think that's one of the most important. Uh, I think all the things we're doing from the district side of trying to make it a magnet school along those lines are very good, and increasing the zone. But the beach needs to get the word out to all the businesses. We can't go business to business, all these new resorts. And also maybe some of the new resorts would be willing to help subsidize the school if it doesn't get its enrollment up. There's a lot of options that could be done to make it both a feasible and a good thing to keep the school there.
Interesting. So I know Bay Oaks has to be open. That has to be part of the interlocal agreement. But are there specific benchmarks, like the school district will be responsible for 9 students and the town's going to be responsible for? I mean, how do you you said create a timeline? How do you create that timeline for what are the specifics of what do you want to see in it?
Well, one, we have to see growth. Okay. So I'm looking in my mind, and I have not seen, because I'm not negotiating the interlocal agreement, but I would like to see something along maybe a 3-year just to come back and look at this instead of just kicking it down the road, and then see if it's growing, and then set some benchmarks there. Right now, the beach is a disaster zone. Everybody knows
Right.
that. You know
Right.
that. I've watched your podcast, and to expect anything great changes, in the first year or two are going to be very difficult. But as things begin to rebuild, I think we'll see a trend going one way or another. If Margaritaville opens up, has a lot of employees, and there are 0 people from that coming to the school, that's a little telling. If there's several coming from that, that's also telling. And then I know there's probably going to be other resorts opening up on the beach, and as the houses come back.
Right.
So we're going to wait and see. There's, like I say earlier, I said there's a lot of unknowns, but I would like to see the school open for a few years so the kids there can, get over. They've had the pandemic, and then they had the hurricane. That's 2 big things they've been whacked on in a row. So I'd like to see them have some stability for at least a couple of years while we work all this out.
Do you think it should be a 5-year interlocal agreement because of what's going on down on the beach now with the rebuild and the rubble and the kids? Some of the kids are even displaced. They're not even, who knows where they are.
Yeah. I can't go on record for that. That's something we may have to vote on. And again, I'm not negotiating it. All I can say is there needs to be some benchmarks in there. So they just don't start ignoring it again. And then all of a sudden you're told, oh, we're closing it next year. I mean, there needs to be something going on there so everybody realizes it is. Give everybody a chance to do their part. Give the district a chance to grow the school. Give the city a chance to get the word out and promote the school. And then if those 2 things come together, I think you probably will be okay.
Do you think that if it wasn't for the passion of the community and the teachers and the students and the parents that came to the school board meetings, it would have been an easier decision to just close it?
I think for some it would be. Like I say, having had a granddaughter in the school and really thinking about the kids on buses and things like that, because I mean, the alternative is you bus the kids off. And so to me, I don't like that alternative of busing kids anywhere. I mean, I love school choice, but when I was a child, you went to the school closest to you.
Right.
When you were a child, and there was minimal busing. Now there's like maximum busing to give everybody all these choices. I just want all that money saved from busing to go back into the schools to improve the schools countywide.
Gotcha. What can you say, or what would you like to say to the residents or the people watching that they might want to know from you about how they can help move this forward?
Well, first off, I apologize. I didn't answer your question that you originally said there. all those parents coming, that did have a great effect, I think. I mean, I enjoyed listening to those two little children that came up that one meeting. Was just awesome when they spoke about their school. So they need to stay passionate about it. The emails coming, we all read them, and that's important. So I think, again, if it's presented to the board, I think they'll be probably more favorable. But again, until they present us all the facts, what the interlocal agreement is, because see, we haven't been told that either at this point.
Mhm.
Other than they're trying to work out some agreements there, probably not much more than you have. The cost of rebuilding the school, that's been presented to us. The numbers of kids in the school has been presented to us. And that's what we're going on right now.
Yeah, and I know there was a meeting last night at 5 o'clock to discuss the interlocal agreement with whoever the two sides are, meeting on that. So hopefully we'll hear something this week. When is the meeting that the vote is going to be taking place? Has it been established which meeting it's going to be in?
We're leaning toward March 22nd, I believe.
Okay.
Is what I was told there. And I'm sure we're going to have a workshop somewhere before that.
I see.
Before we do a final. They're not just going to bring it up and that's when we vote on it. So they're still doing a few things we asked them for in the last workshop.
Is it your opinion that the superintendent is in favor of opening the school?
I think I'm not trying to duck the question. I think he will do whatever the board directs him to do. In all honesty, he's always said that. He does an excellent job of presenting us all the facts, and that's what's important for us because we have to make the final decision. He doesn't make that. So he'll make a recommendation, but it's up to us to make that final decision there.
If the vote was tomorrow, would B pass?
I can't go on record and say that. Nice try though.
I got to ask you, of course. So is being a school board member everything you thought it was going to be?
Well, what I thought I would be doing is nothing like what I am doing because of, it's half my day. I started off this morning at 9:00 at the long-term hurricane task force recovery, which your mayor was also there. So we were there for a couple hours this morning, working on a lot of problems that are countywide, not just for the beach or not just for the school system. And that we're going to be meeting regularly on that. That's going to be a very important commission, group of people there, because when you ask as a unit, you get more response from the government versus Fort Myers Beach wants this, Sanibel wants that, the school system wants this. If there's some commonality between all of that, it works out a lot better.
So you started that at 9. So it's different than what it was when you were running for office, is what you're saying.
Right. I mean, when I was running for office, everybody was talking about, oh, we got a big budget. First thing I had to do as a school board chair was after the meeting, they said, oh, you got to sign some papers. We signed a $250 million line of credit because we didn't know when our tax money was going to come in. And we have a large payroll and everything we have to make every month. And that's what you're working on. Normally you get it all in right away. Everybody wants their discount on taxes. And, that works out real well. But this year it's come in much slower. And now they're giving abatements too. So that's all. A lot of people just don't know where they're at on that.
So you get elected and then no worries. We got 2. So you get elected and then you're the chair in the first year of being on the board, or, I mean, they just throw you right into the fire.
Oh, that's fine. But I don't mind that,
Well, we thank you for your time and thank you for talking to us about the beach school. We really do appreciate it.
All right. We're looking at person. Thank you.
Thank you from the Lee County School District to talk about the Lee County School Board District to talk about the beach school. And they've got a vote coming up at the end of March. Looks like option B is on the table right now, but also he mentioned that there'll be another workshop before the vote. Of course, we'll keep you up to date on all those meetings and carry those meetings when we can. Before we go, we want to let you know about Liberty Roofing and Construction, your trusted roofing company, certified to provide the industry-leading manufacturer's total system of 50-year warranty. That's right, everybody. When you get a new roof, you want it to last through the next storm, if there is a next storm. Clean property guarantee, industry-leading workmanship. You receive a free assessment by calling 401 Roofing. That's 401 Roofing. Patrick McKenna is your guy. Give him a call now at 401-439-9585. 401-439-9589. Might have saw Laura Sanchez on our show a few weeks ago. Laura has money to give if you need to rebuild, if you need to refurbish, and you can give her a call at 239-895-0657, like millions of dollars to give away. Laura Sanchez is a vice president. Pregnant. She's not. She's the vice president of mortgage lending, and they have lots of money to give away. Call her today at 239-895-0657. She knows all about the FEMA stuff and can help you out if you need some money. And finally, ATM Mortgage Advisors offers services such as purchasing mortgages, refinancing mortgages, reverse mortgages, home equity lines of credit, conventional and FHA rehab loans, new construction loans, VA loans. And you're going to call Jeff Tarbell at ATM Mortgage, and his phone number is 916-718-5171. That's 916-718-5171. Thank you to Armor for coming on, and the mayor is running a little late, so we're going to give him a pass on this week's show. Keep sending your questions in for next week's Mondays with the Mayor. We'll call that one episode number 13. And if you've got any questions about permitting or what's going on in the town, you can send them to Ed Ryan, the editor, at gmail.com. That's Ed Ryan, the editor, at gmail.com. This week, a new shipment of large hoodies came in. So if you ordered a large, we'll be getting it out to you this week. We thank you guys for all your support. We'll be back Friday night live from Mangaritas. We have a great story from somebody that was in the storm this Friday night at Mangaritas. Thank you all for everything. Bye-bye.